Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael, and this is not going to be perfect, so we're just going to jump right into it. First of all, let me just show you my card. My name is Michael, AKA Vikter Bang, and you can Google me if you want to. And you'll see that all of this work that was done up to this point was to make an impact on this reality, to put myself into the collective. So you can Google Vikter Bang, you can Google Vikter Bang timeline, you can Google the Trueman Show, you can Google the 100-degree challenge, and you will see all of the work that was done here. So I'll explain this briefly. So you see the card, it says angel, which is what I am. An angel is a messenger, artist, and a matrix engineer. And I'm gonna get into that, and I'm gonna explain all of this to you in the best way that I can. So, little background on me, it just didn't come out of the blue. This is the culmination of years of documentation, journey, awakening, whatever you want to call it. And it's all about exponential growth. So this chart shows exponential growth. In this reality, we've been stifled, we've been limited as far as consciousness, and we can see that our technology has evolved past our spirituality. And we're having to grapple with that because we have these things that we can destroy the planet with. We don't have the consciousness to understand how to work within that. So there's been limited, consciousness growth, but you got people like me and you and us on the planet now to awaken this shift into something higher. So it's about exponential growth, and that's what we're all about now. That's what makes it exciting for me because we're changing the timeline. We're actually splitting the timeline now. And you're gonna have a choice. You're gonna have a choice whether you stay on this path right here or whether you choose to ride the exponential growth timeline. And we'll get into that later. So as far as angel, okay, I am one of the sons of God. And if you're watching this, so are you. And we'll get into this from a religious standpoint, but that's part of the deception that they teach you is that there was only one, if you believe that. And there's a lot of people that believe that. A lot of people in my family discounted me because I couldn't possibly be a son of God as well, even though I might possibly be Jesus. Jesus is within us. We're all supposed to aspire to be that awakened being, but mom named Mary had an awakening in the cloud, skin like burnt brass, hair like wool. Why not? You're not able to prove a negative, so I'm just going to do what I feel Jesus would do anyway. And they say he would come like a thief in the night, so not exactly a thief in the night in the mainstream, but you can see all of this work has been leading up to that. So each dot on this graph, and I went into this in detail in a 27-minute video where I pretty much outlined how I got to this point, is a now. And a now is the only time that exists. So during this 5-6 year journey, and it goes back even further than that, each moment was leading up to this entirety, which again contributes to the exponential growth. So being an angel, let's just look at it from that. Forget about the whole Jesus thing, because Jesus was just like you, a human being that became aware of himself, became enlightened, whatever you want to call it. So let's imagine that God only makes angels. Even if you are a religious person, the devil is an angel, right? So we all have the choice to do good or bad, God or devil. We have those choices on our shoulder. Just like the old Indian saying, there's a battle between two wolves within each of us, a good one and a bad one. Which one wins? The ones that you feed. So I've tried to feed the good wolf in me as good as I can, right? Now, talking about being an angel. So yes, they make black angels too. And we're going to get into this timeline, and we're going to understand the suppression to that and why people don't see many images of black angels like myself. All right, so really quick, and this has to do with the limitation that they put on our consciousness as well. So even though we may be out of slavery, there's still the mental slavery that we're still going through based on the suppression in 400 years of programming. So I'm gonna walk you through this real quick. All righty, so King James Version, and I'm just gonna put this in here because this is important, was around 1619, right? Now King James Version hasn't really changed since that whole time, and it's still here now. I'm gonna go back to that later, but I just wanted to point that out. So 1619, slavery started. 1662, they basically said if you're a mother and you have a child, that child is a slave. So anyone that was born in black of a slave was a slave, right? Now, 1776, America says, hey, we don't want to be under anybody's rule, but we're still going to have slaves. And that was an interesting hypocrisy. So I question when people say make America great again, I'm wondering when they're talking about, because this is the history. This is not something that I made up. This is something that I had to deal with, and this is part of my ancestry, and this is in my DNA, and that's why I'm compelled and standing on the shoulders of giants to try to rectify this, because again, it's about exponential growth. So let's continue. So, politics, 1793, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act. So this is government, right? After they declared independence, they still didn't want us to be free. Right. In 1857, the Dred Scott case, we're not citizens. 1860, good old Abe came in, and at that point, they did a census. There were 4.4 million slaves and 448,000 free, right? 1863, they did the emancipation, but in 1865, they had the 13th Amendment, right? So we're still dealing with that. And then 1892, you got Jim Crow laws, and Jim Crow was just another name for Negro. You can look that up. I did a song called Paperwork, kind of outlining this in an artistic form, going back to the artist in me, right? Then you got 1964, the Civil Rights Act, was the work of Martin Luther King and other activists. And then 65, Malcolm X died, was assassinated, and then 68, Martin Luther King was assassinated, right? So 200 years after this, in comes me, good old Michael, right? And this is all the history that's before me. This is all the programming that I was taught as well. This is the history that I was taught, and this is in my DNA. So it's part of me. It's part of who I am, and it's part of the mental bondage that I had to break myself. And that's why I'm adamant about helping others. It's kind of like that quote they said Harriet Tubman didn't do in the Underground Railroad, where she would have helped more people if they only knew they were slaves. There's a mental slavery. There's an overground railroad, if you will. And I'm trying to help people, but they don't even know they're slaves, right? And because a lot of that is because of this King James Version. They kept us down with this. And the reason they kept us down is because they gave us images of deities and people that attained levels of awareness and enlightenment that didn't look like us. And they also taught us certain things to keep us limited as far as we should be getting our rewards in an afterlife, while the people that are teaching that are getting their rewards now. So it's a whole thing. And I'm not even going to get into where these stories come from. There's certain people in my family that believe that the King James Version was the first book ever wrote. And talking about Jesus in the Bible, none of these words were wrote by Jesus. So, that's an interesting thing here. So during this history, there were people that stuck out and started to shed a little light on red pill stuff. And two of the ones that stuck out to me are Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey III and Booker T. Now, Frederick Douglass and Booker T went through slavery, and they can talk about through their own autobiographies what it was like not being able to read, not being able to learn, and being suppressed. They didn't want us to learn this stuff. Some people just wanted to read so they can read the Bible because they had it read to them. And imagine what verses that they had read to them. So these are some of the people that we're building on, that I'm building on, right? And yeah, I'm a black person, so I have this in my DNA, and I'm talking to other black people as well, but this is more than color. I'm just giving you the history on this, right? So these are the people that I'm building on. So I come into this world, this is me, and I'm just trying to find my place, find my success, find my happiness, having all of this, experiencing racism and all of this stuff, and it's really ignorance, and that's why I'm talking about knowledge and education, and the 100-degree challenge is a part of that. We're going to get into that later, because it's really ignorance. And it's not just about being a good person, because you can be a good person, go in Walmart and get shot by someone who has ignorant thoughts of white supremacy or something like that. It's not about being greater or less than the other. It's about seeing divinity in all of us and really knowing that we're connected. We're all part of the same thing. So I questioned that, right? So I graduated and was, trying to live the normal life and all that stuff. And it just didn't add up. I just kept questioning it. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, so my mind always wants to problem solve and figure out how things work. And I didn't understand all of this. Why the suppression? Why the racism? Why the world? Why the trajectory that we're on? That's just really going to lead to a mushroom cloud and self-destruction. So I really started questioning things, and I deprogrammed myself. I tried to say, what would I believe or what is truth without anyone giving any of this stuff to me? And this is just stuff that was taught by people and just parroted without people really doing their own research. There's no history of doing your own research. There's suppression to being smart and stuff like that. There's programming between all of that. So I decided to do that myself because I was free enough based on all of this groundwork that was laid before me. So I am standing on the shoulders of giants. So I started from scratch and said, what do I believe? Just looking at it from a scientific standpoint, right? And then so from a scientific standpoint, if you believe E equals MC squared, there's only one E, there's only one of us, there's only one energy, and we're all connected to it. And so when you look at the probability of this happening by chance, it kind of leads to intelligent design. Doesn't mean that it has anything to do with religion, but there is a creative force and intelligence underlying all of this. And you can get into cutting edge science, and they'll kind of talk about the information in the field as well. And this kind of echoes some of the things that were talked about by some of the spiritual teachers as I started looking into that, like Anthony DeMayo, Alan Watts, Wayne Dyer, Lao Tzu, Rumi, Krishnamurti. And then I started looking at the history from a black perspective, looking at people like Dr. Bang, John Henry Clark, Amos Wilson, and then really started looking at it from a higher level, like a Buddha and a Jesus. And you really can, if you don't throw the baby out the bathwater, you see when Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven is within, he's talking about the same awareness that's been talked about for ages. And it really goes back pre the stories of the Bible. Some of the stuff that's in the Bible is just parroted for older stories. That's why most of us kind of resonated with it, because I believe there's something in our DNA that matched that. So I formulated the 100-degree challenge based on all of this experience and all of this time, and from talking to people and having experiences with them, trying to figure out what is truth, what is fact, what is the difference between dogma, religion, faith, and belief, and what can we agree on as facts. So there is a link between science and religion. Science only deals with things that they can measure, so anything that's immaterial they really don't deal with. They kind of throw that over to religion, and then religion can get very caught up in dogma and all of that stuff. But there's a link between both of them and spirituality, and the link between spirituality is you. That's the main important piece of it, the bottom of the pyramid, as I talked about before, self-esteem, your self-image. So rolling all that up into what I'm doing now, right? So I'm trying to make this quick and be a summary, because what's happening now is you're looking at someone that woke up in the matrix. And what is the matrix? It's mentioned 5 times in the Bible, but in the Bible, the word matrix means womb. So we all entered this matrix, womb, from a woman. And even in the movie The Matrix, which was written by a black woman, this is where she got that word from, at least from her interview. Now, from a scientific standpoint, if you don't want to look at it from a biblical standpoint, they talk about this reality being holographic, simulated, but from a mystical and a spiritual standpoint, they talk about it being an illusion. And even Einstein said reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. So all of this adds up, that's why you have a link between spirituality and religion, and that's what we're dealing with here. So I had my experience, just like a Buddha, a Jesus. The thing is, I didn't believe the limitations that were put on me, even though there are people that still don't believe that I can have the experience that I'm having now. So that's fine. What I'm experiencing now is impossible to some, but I'm experiencing it. So I'm going to take this to the far levels as I can take it. Now, so I did take the red pill, and I'm formulated a digital red pill that's in this matrix now, under the alias Vikter Bang, VB, victory over noise. And there's a lot of noise. This is all noise that's been programmed into us to keep us from going within, because this whole program that they give us from a religious standpoint is, hey, you don't have to do anything. Someone's going to do it for you. They're going to come save you and do the work that only you can do, the inner work that only you can do. They're going to save you. They're going to come die for you and all of that stuff, and you're going to get your reward later. In the meantime, we're going to control this whole reality here. And that's how 1% can control 99%. That's what we got going on here now. So as I took the red pill, what happened is I changed my trajectory. Now, there's some possibilities here. This can go somewhere and this can't. The only way I know if it goes somewhere is to do what I'm doing now. Put it out in the mainstream, put it out in the public, to make some noise, to get people to get out of their zone and to get out of my comfort zone, right? That's the only way you're going to expand, is to get out of your comfort zone. And for some people, their religious texts are their comfort zone. But you're not going to learn anything if you only deal with what you already know. You have to be willing to make mistakes. And I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. But what I'm going to do as I make mistakes is I'm going to learn from them. And I'm going to continue to grow from these mistakes. And that's how we're going to make exponential growth. And I'm going to document that. With the 100-degree challenge, I laid it out from 0 to 100 degrees, going from water to steam. And that's a play on water, going from water to steam, to changing state, just like we can have a state within ourselves. Same thing Jesus talked about. And I pick on Jesus just because, again, in this program that I've been in America, you're taught a lot about Jesus. So when he talked about a spiritual birth, he talks about the kingdom of heaven being within. He said that you are God's. He said the things that I can do, you can do them better. So the whole idea of a real Christian is to become Jesus, embody Jesus, and do what Jesus would do. And this is what I feel Jesus would do. So this is all about changing the timeline, changing the current reality that we're on, which is, again, leading to destruction. So this is what this signifies. So if nothing happens, right, I got a 50-50 chance on this, 50-50, but I know definitely it's going to be 100 to 0 if I don't do anything. So this is the point now where I am now, okay? So if you're seeing this video, I'm trying to open up all of these probabilities here. Worst case scenario, I can continue on this blue timeline, work a 9 to 5, retire and die, right? At one point in time, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to transition. But until that time, I'm going to try to interject as much truth as I can into this reality. Now, these are the timelines that I'm interested in and I want to see because they're going to be part of this exponential growth. And I'm still going to leave this reality at one point, but it won't be on this level. It'll be on another level. And these are all probabilities that are opening up by just taking this action and getting out of my comfort zone. And I'm just trying to simulate that for you to see that wherever I end up, I am trying to change it from here to here. And just show you an example of that so you can see that you can do it for yourself in your own life. You're on a current trajectory now, you want to change it, get out of your comfort zone, get in contact with yourself and your own possibilities, your own probabilities, and yeah, you can change that, change your own reality. You change your world, you change the world, because we're all connected to it. So this is the whole idea. Hopefully I explained that in a good way. If not, you can take all mistakes for love. But yeah, I'm in this reality. Yeah, a matrix engineer is here working. What I'm going to be doing now is going to be talking about the 100-degree challenge, right? I want to lay this out as facts. If I have an apple and I tell you that you cut an apple this way, you'll see a star. That's not true. If you cut an apple going horizontally, you'll see the star inside of the apple. And we all have stars inside of us. It's just how we cut it. If you're taught how to cut it a certain way and you never cut it another way, you'll never know. The thing is, I'm just showing you all of this to show you that the possibility exists. In the 100-degree challenge, we're going to walk through these facts. We're going to talk about dogma. We're going to talk about all of the rabbit holes that people go down to keep them from experiencing something themselves that can transform them. And we're going to answer questions. If it's going to be belief, then we're going to leave it at belief. If it's going to be dogma, we're going to leave it at dogma. But you can't say that it's a fact. We're going to see what we can agree on as facts. And we're going to answer questions. We're going to make a repository of questions and answers so that we're not asking and answering the same questions all the time. And this is going to build something. This is going to raise all of this up. And this is going to increase the probabilities so that we can change our trajectory and even be more than I can imagine. So all this chicken scratch hopefully comes through, and you're going to see this in this reality in ways that I don't even know, because each one of these things are going to be moving, they're going to be fluid, and with each mistake, with each learning process, the timelines are going to shift, and we're going to open up probabilities, and we're going to take the best steps. We're going to do the best things that we can do for the highest good at each moment on this journey. And I'm going to document this as much as I can, and that's what the Trueman Show is. You're talking about a guy, basically a Jesus on the planet, that has taken the red pill, can talk to you in depth about it scientifically and from a religious standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint. And it's not just me, there's other people that will echo this, both in the physical and non-physical, and it goes way back to our potential, and that's in us as well, you know, going back to Africa, right, and the pyramids and the things that are predating some of the stuff that we were taught. And that's where you get into John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben and Ivan Van Sertima and Amos Wilson and all that stuff. So hopefully it's not too long. I don't know how long this went, but you're going to see this on Instagram. You're going to see this on Facebook. You're going to see this on YouTube, and you're going to see these talks. And yeah, you got someone like this that's alive in this reality. And yeah, it's going to mess some people up. It's going to make some people uncomfortable. And yeah, there's risk involved with it as well. But when you realize who and what you are, you're not afraid of death. You know, death is just an illusion anyway. It's part of that illusory thing. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So your spirit does not die. So there you have it. I'm not afraid of death. What I do not want to do is leave what's in my mind, the experience that I've had in my head. I want to put as much of it out and help and try to make this exponential possibility manifested as much as I can. So that's what I want to do. I am more interested in that than becoming the richest man in the cemetery or becoming the one with the most cars and all this materialistic stuff. I'm more interested in learning, knowledge, evolution, and service to others. So there you have it. And there's plenty of other things that I haven't talked to. There's going to be other shoes that are going to drop. So the revelations are going to be very interesting. They're going to go up the chain. And yeah, it's going to be some very interesting stuff. So that's what excites me. So hopefully all this makes some sense. I appreciate you watching and listening up to this point. Peace.